Okay, so let's get into the losers. Before we go further, check out kencampbell.substack.com.
Speaking of losers.
That's good. That's good. Well done. Check out kencampbell.substack.com. Check out this old loser on Twitter too at Ken_Campbell27. And of course, check out our podcast, Hockey Unfiltered. Check us out on Apple Podcasts. If you want it directly into your inbox, then the Substack, the aforementioned Substack, as it were. And yeah, so let's talk about the losers. We already discussed Florida, but we did get a question on Florida from August West on YouTube. And I can't believe it took me this long to place the name. Do you know what the name is from?
August West. August West. No.
My name is August West, and I love
Still
my Pearly
don't
Baker
know.
best more than my wine.
Yeah, that's not helping me.
Grateful Dead.
Oh,
August West was the wharf rat.
Yeah, okay.
Anyways,
I don't listen to that hippie music.
I told you I quoted Jerry Garcia to the a conservative MP came to my door. He said, "Well, if you had to pick, who would you pick?" And I said, "Choosing the better of two evils is still choosing evil."
Right. I would have said, "Not you."
I should have said, "Get off my lawn." Yeah. I just manicured it, okay, buddy. Anyways, so August West says, should Bill Zito share some of the blame for sticking with, after Joel Quenneville was fired, not going out and getting a,
Joel Quenneville type of coach.
Right.
Well, that's some pretty good revisionist history there, in my opinion.
Yeah.
First of all, it was an untenable situation. Right. I mean, it's not like they fired Joel Quenneville because they were doing poorly and the team wasn't responding to him or whatever. This was a crisis situation.
Yeah.
And they didn't actually fire him. He resigned, but I mean, semantics.
Yeah.
Semantics. He resigned. I mean, they had to have somebody in place fairly quickly.
Resigned in disgrace.
Yeah. Well, as it turned out, yes. But I mean, it wasn't like they had the luxury of having a month in the off season to, interview a bunch of people.
Yeah.
And this, they had to kind of hit the ground running, and they had to do it with somebody who was familiar with the organization.
Yeah.
And so, and until the playoffs, I don't know if anybody's really, has a problem with Andrew Brunette being the coach.
Yeah.
Right. They did win the President's Trophy. They were really good with him. They got behind in games, and then they'd be behind by 3 or 4 goals, and then they'd come back and win.
Yeah.
Like, it was incredible the way they did that during the regular season. During the playoffs, I think that coaching was a factor.
It's a huge factor.
I definitely think it was a big factor. It wasn't the only factor.
No.
I mean, a lot of those guys that we thought were going to be really battle hardened and be able to carry it in the playoffs didn't.
Yeah. You're talking about the Barkovs.
Yeah, and the Sam Bennett's and the Hubertos and
Huberto had a so-so playoffs.
Yeah, he had an okay playoffs.
But it wasn't
exactly.
It wasn't Hart Trophy finalist caliber.
I just feel like they never really got themselves untracked. You know what I mean? Like they really started the Washington series very poorly. They didn't look good. They came back, they won, and then we were kind of like, my idea of it was, okay, they faced their adversity, they got the yips out of their game, they weren't good. Now we're going to see the best of them.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't see the best of them. You know, I mean, the highest scoring team in the NHL scored 3 goals. None of them on the power play.
Yeah.
So and Tampa made them look really, really ordinary.
The reason why I like boxing and I can't stand ultimate fighting,
right,
is because when a boxer starts to go down, it gets broken up like that. Mm-hmm. In ultimate fighting, when a guy starts to go down,
the guy pounds on him.
It's
more,
like finish him. Yeah. It's just like to the death gladiator sports to me, right? And
what's wrong with that?
Yeah, Aren't you the anti-fighting guy for the NHL?
Yeah, I am.
But anyways, but the thing is, so you develop a different instinct, right? And, the playoffs versus the regular season, you're right in the sense that it's a little bit of revisionist history. But it's almost like looking back, even for myself, I'm like, I should have thought of it. What it takes to coach a team in the playoffs is different than what it takes to coach a team in the regular season. Look at all of the playoff success that Barry Trotz had with the New York Islanders compared to the very ordinary regular seasons that they were having, right? And so I almost should have thought of it like you need that UFC mentality in the playoffs, which is like, I've already got you by the throat.
Bury him.
Why don't I punch your head as much as possible?
Right.
Yeah. And you need that in the playoffs. So I guess like I should have thought of that, and he was out coached. And to your point about the Stars not really being the Stars for Florida, a good coach can put Stars in a position to succeed, and whether that's matchups, whatever that might be, like a good coach will put those people in a position to succeed.
Here's what I will say about Joel Quenneville, and I maintain this, that in all the time that I've been watching hockey, there's never been a coach better than Joel Quenneville who can make in-game adjustments.
Yeah.
And he has an uncanny ability to know who's going and who's not, and who to play and who to sit and how much to play and to play with whom and all that. I don't believe that includes Scotty Bowman, in my opinion. There isn't a coach that I've seen that's better at making those in-game adjustments and going with the guys who are going better than Joel Quenneville.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a big part of it. But what are you gonna do, right? Like you've had to have Joel Quenneville resign because of what essentially is toxic, right?
Yeah.
So what are you going to do? You're going to bring in Mike Babcock? Like, what are you going to do? Like,
right.
Oh yeah, we fired
these
the guy.
Guys.
We made the guy resign who was involved in the worst sex scandal in the history of the NHL, but we're also going to bring in a guy who's really toxic too, that's not going to work.
Yeah. I mean, and you're exactly right. The bottom line is that they don't have time. Like, even if they were looking and Andrew Burnett kept winning, then sooner or later they're going to stop looking, because the thing, when Daryl Sutter took over for the Calgary Flames last season, they had to give him a 3-year contract.
Yeah.
It was a 3-year contract, I think. Maybe it was a 4-year contract. Anyways, whatever it was, they had to give him a 3-year contract. So if you're not looking for a coach, you're not about to just be like, hey, Torts, here's 3 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to make that knee jerk for the long-term success of your team. So I hear where this is coming from, and it's not an unreasonable place. What a shock from a deadhead. We all come from very reasonable places.
I don't get that either, because I don't listen to those hippie freaks.
You're more into the heavy metal. You were at the Slipknot concert last night.
That's me. Because I love having a guy with spikes coming out of his head yelling at me in a gravelly voice for a couple hours. That's my idea of a really good time.
Well, I have a guy yell at me in a gravelly voice for a couple of hours on this podcast every week. Yeah,
exactly. I'll just spike my hair from now on.
Yeah, that's my idea of a good time.
Wear a clown mask.
All right, so should we move on to the other losers?
Yep.
Okay, Carolina Hurricanes.
Losers.
Calgary Flames. Losers. Yeah, that's all we have to say on the matter.
No, but Carolina, that was super disappointing.
They laid such an egg last night. You should have told me. So we talked on the phone at around...
Score a power play goal.
We talked on the phone around 9 o'clock. Score a power play goal. And I hadn't started the game, and I started it late. I just couldn't get to the TV. And I said to you, I said, yeah, no spoilers. I'm about to start the game from the beginning. You should have just said, don't bother.
I could have, but then that would have spoiled it.
I know, but you know, what's there to spoil?
See, to me, it's like you look at the Carolina Hurricanes. They lost Freddie Anderson, but they didn't miss a beat in getting Antti Ranta. He was. I thought
Antti Ranta lost them one game.
Yeah, exactly. He had that bad game. That was it.
But you only lose a game once.
Yeah, he was
right. Let in 100 bad goals.
Right,
you only lose the game once.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
he was excellent.
He was.
Their defense is is close to impenetrable. Their defense core is probably from top to bottom the best in the NHL. This is on their offensive players. This loss is pinned directly, in my opinion, on their so-called offensive players who just could not score a goal. And you know what? I mean, I get it that it's Igor Shesterkin. I get it that he's Superman. I get all those things.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming he's going to get picked apart in the next round. Maybe he won't. But
I don't know that he will.
Yeah. I just think that it's on them. Like, it's on these guys that they just couldn't get the job done.
So, firstly, as soon as I saw Ranta's knee bend like that, I just my knee twitched. It just it was really, and it's just so sad that this guy was taken out of the game that way. And I just all the respect in the world to Antti Ranta for that series and for the whole playoffs so far.
Yeah.
I would say. But when Kochetkov went in, it was Kochetkov, right? The other goalie, yeah. When Kochetkov went in, did you hear do you know the story of the last emperor of Rome? So at this point, Rome was no longer an empire, but they still maintained an emperor, and the city had been sacked like 4 times at this point, right? And anyways, so another invasion horde came to sack the city, and they literally just went, you know what, man?
Not worth it.
They just said you're not an emperor anymore, and he stepped down, he abdicated, and just went off to live in exile. And it was almost like it was just this. He just took this pathetic, dying empire, and basically was an appointed emperor, and just had to basically walk away from it. And that was kind of like Kochetkov. It's just like the team had already laid the egg. Ranta was keeping them in it single-handedly. I mean, the 2 goals was one of the best deflections I've seen in the playoffs by Chris Kreider.
Yes. Yeah.
And the other one was through like 4 bodies. Now, ideally, a goalie can get the other one in an elimination game, but you don't pin that on the goalie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's I guess I could have, but yeah, you don't pin that on the goalie. And so Kochetkov going in at that point, it just reminded me of the last emperor of Rome. He just had to sit there and preside over the downfall of the team. It was very sad. It's very sad to watch Carolina go out that way. And then, of course, the TV crew had to show us.
Right, we're with our, we have our 3rd string goalie in there right now. Like, this is how it ends.
Yeah, exactly.
With us not scoring and a 3rd string goal.
And this rookie is like practically some of his first NHL experience.
Yeah, and we're
losing a game 7.
We're throwing him in, and we're giving up breakaways because we have to press the other way.
Right.
Yeah. So
yeah. And Shesterkin had like by my count 3 excellent saves in that game, but didn't really have to stand on his head.
Yeah.
He had to be good.
Yeah.
But I mean, it didn't look like Carolina did not sustain. And the New York Rangers did an excellent job of holding Carolina to the outside.
Yeah.
I was surprised. And so before we get on to the next bit, actually, you know what? I'll talk about that when we talk about the New York Rangers, when we preview the New York Rangers versus the Tampa Bay Lightning. Calgary Flames.
The Calgary Flames were a huge disappointment in this round. This was the team that was supposed to be the best 5-on-5 team in the NHL. All this depth, all this texture to their team, they just didn't get it done.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, the wild card of goaltending.
Yeah.
Jacob Markstrom was not bad. He was putrid. He was terrible.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it was. Well, I do know what it was, but like, I just feel like he felt as though he had to play so deep in his net. And you're the goalie guy, but to kind of negotiate and get across and figure everything out and all of that he just played so deep in his net that he just got picked apart.
So goalies practice flow. Excuse me, flow. And it's kind of become a buzzword in the goaltending community. Flow, you know what I mean? Okay. Just like when all of a sudden everything became edge work. Look at his edge work.
Mike Smith has great flow.
Yeah, on his hair. Yeah. And on a simple level, flow is simply just like your ability to be at the top of your crease, to the side of your net, and basically be able to transition your movements perfectly and be able to pick and move and combine different techniques in order to have flow. But at an NHL level, you're going to practice that flow based on the defense that's in front of you. How fast are guys coming at you? Where is the defense giving them angles to come at you? And so you're going to be practicing the flow in that sense, right? And Jakob Markstrom just looked like a guy who all of a sudden his flow was completely thrown off because all of a sudden he didn't have any solid idea of where he was being attacked from and how he's being attacked. Okay. And then to your point, he wound up defaulting to the goal line. Some goalies then try to become over aggressive on the shots.
Okay.
And he defaulted back, and he was just, he was putrid. But the other thing that I thought about is that the book on him when he was in Vancouver was that he was an excellent goalie that shouldn't start too many games because his body broke down too quickly. Yeah. Now he came out and said, "I'm not injured," but that doesn't mean that your body's not, kicking back at you.
Doesn't mean you're not tired. Yeah.
So that was a thought that I had about him, which was, maybe he's just not the goalie that you want to be riding through a playoff series, and maybe 40-year-old Mike Smith is.
Well, his career numbers are great.
Yeah.
His career numbers are great.
Yeah. Well, when you have a playoff series every 10 years, then they're gonna be
kicked in or not.
Not. Okay. So I sent a friend of mine a message and I said, it's really sad to see two series decided on essentially bogus calls. Mm-hmm. And he pushed back on that statement, and which I think he was right to do. And I said, okay, they weren't necessarily decided on those bogus calls because I'm referring to the Leafs series and the Flames series. But to see the refs have an unconscionable.
That wasn't refereeing though.
No, okay, fair enough. That was the Toronto War Room.
They called it a goal.
Yeah.
It got called back. It got reviewed automatically by the Toronto War Room. Yeah. And then at that point, it was completely out of their hands. It was completely out of the referee's hands. So the guys in the War Room who are watching all the games every year, and say what you want about the NHL. But at least you're getting some consistency there, because you're not getting like, Chris Rooney's interpretation of a kicked in goal one night and then Kelly Sutherland's another night. You know what I mean? When these things go back to the War Room, they're at least the guys that are watching them all the time, and they decided it was kicked in. I don't see it at all.
He was on one foot.
There's no to me, the word is distinct. That's where I have all the problem with this rule.
Yeah.
There was nothing distinct about that kicking motion. He maybe directed it in, but he was in survival mode. And I don't agree. I thought it was a bad call.
So apparently on the broadcast, which I don't normally watch the in-between period stuff. Yeah. I normally walk the dog or do something that I've been postponing, empty the dishwasher. Right. But apparently, the stuff the bare minimum to keep me married.
Right. Yeah. That stuff. Yeah.
But apparently they were saying, the professionals in the group, such as Kevin Bieksa, was saying, yes, I would definitely be purposely trying to redirect that puck into the net, even though I'm on one foot and being pushed and all the rest of it. And that's fine. The thing is that I don't think that necessarily is mutually exclusive to the fact that it was not a distinct kicking motion.
Right.
Because to your point, distinct kicking motion doesn't mean turning your skate blade to redirect it.
Well, and in fact, you're allowed to do that.
Right.
You're allowed to redirect.
And at this point in the play, he had been cross-checked in the back. Yeah. He tripped 1 foot on the goalie and was on his left foot. His right foot had tripped. He's on his left foot all by itself. Yeah. And yes, you can see his left knee pump forwards. Yeah. But his skate blade never leaves the ice, and I would say that there is no way that you can call that a distinct kicking motion when a guy is going to crash into a steel bar. Yeah. And it was they skate at 40 kilometers an hour.
Yeah, and it was going in already.
Anyway. And it was going in already. So I'm just like, of the two things, one that it was going in already, which, as you know, goaltender interference is supposed to be if the puck is going in already and somebody interferes with the goaltender at that point, it doesn't call back the goal.
Right.
So the fact that it was going in, anyways, whatever. Bogus call, we agree.
Yeah, not a bogus call, but a missed call, a wrong call. And it just, to me, it was almost like the NHL not being able to get out of its own way. You know, that's not a challengeable call.
Right.
So the Oilers weren't going to challenge it because they can't.
Yeah.
You can't, that's not a challengeable call.
Yeah.
So they weren't going to challenge it.
Yeah.
They, the referees obviously thought it was a goal. Wes McCauley and Eric Furlat thought it was a goal.
Yeah.
And then the NHL just kind of stuck its nose in.
Now, the bottom line is, with all of this, is that the better team won.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
No,
and so that's why my friend pushed back on me, because he's like, you can't say that it decided the series when at the end of the day, Tampa was the better team in the Toronto series and Edmonton was the better team in the Flames series.
It didn't. And this would have put Calgary up 4-3 or 5-4, whatever.
Yeah.
With 6 minutes left. Who are we to say that Connor McDavid wouldn't have come out and scored 3 goals in that last 6 minutes? But all things being equal, they win that game based on that go-ahead goal.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying they would have won the series. I doubt they would have won the series. Yeah. I would have liked to have seen Game 6 of the Battle of Alberta.
I would have loved to have seen Game 6.
I'm sure the Calgary Flames would have loved to have seen Game 6.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, I'm sure the NHL would have loved to have gotten all the revenue that would have come in from a Game 6 and possibly a Game 7 of the Battle of Alberta.
Yeah.
You know, like, so, and then it was almost like, damn, we're not talking about how Leon Draisaitl had arguably the best playoff series in NHL history.
Right.
You know, we're not talking about Connor McDavid's greatness. We are, but we're not talking about it as much.
But we got to talk about a stupid goal call.
So, anyways.
All right, let's move on to the last loser.
We still got one left, eh? Okay. Who's that? Carolina? Or did
we talked about Carolina?
Yeah.
We talked about Florida last week. And we just talked about the Flames,
Louis,
and now we got to talk about St. Louis.
Yeah,
yeah, I think that the St. Louis Blues put up a pretty good fight, and unfortunately, the fans of the team and of course the team's response did make it kind of a good guy versus bad guy narrative, right? Like it really just it just felt like, you know, like the righteous team needs to win, which of course, you know, it's all laundry at the end of the day, right? But yeah, the St. Louis Blues, they made it a series. They made me feel good about, you know, the fact that I didn't give them 100% chance to win, but at the end of the day, they lost, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, I should specify that I didn't give the Colorado Avalanche 100% chance to win.
Right.
So
I did, however.
You did, however.
I was getting a little worried about that too at one point.
Yeah.
Although that series to me wasn't close.
Once Kadri,
that series wasn't close.
When Kadri got through the garbage that he got through, and then scored a hat trick, it became very clear to me that Colorado was going to win.
Right. Okay.
Like at that point, it was like
you're Game 5 blowing Game 5 away from doing it in 5. Nathan McKinnon has that beautiful goal, has a hat trick, and then they just let their foot off the gas for a little while and let St. Louis hang around and St. Louis won. To me, that wasn't a close series, and it shouldn't have been a close series. I didn't think it was going to be a close series. I think St. Louis really likes to play that heavy down low game, and Colorado just wasn't having any of that. And they were like, nope, we're turning it up. We're turning it up. We're turning up the tempo. We're dictating that. We're going to dictate the terms of engagement here, and it's going to be, this is how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
So,
all right. So before we get off of the losers, let's talk about our picks for round 2. So, and we are going to be multiplying with every round the importance of the points.
Yeah,
because round 1 had 16 possible teams. Round 2 has 8, so then we're going to multiply times 2. So each of these.
So
series,
I'm up 19 going into round 2.
You're up 19.
I'm up 19 points, and so we picked very quickly. We picked a percentage by which we thought the team would win. So I picked, like, in this round, I picked Colorado 100%.
It's essentially a wagering
system. So everything over 50 is how many points you get or something like that. Yeah, is
plus, and then you get subtracted for picking the wrong team and how much you wagered on that. So
anyways, you guys won't understand it. But anyways, after the first round, I was up by 19.
That's the most important part.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be up by a hell of a lot more.
By a lot more. So you picked Edmonton with 53%. I picked Calgary with 65%. So that is an 18% swing for you.
But you said we're doubling.
We'll double it at the end.
Okay. So
we'll just double once we've got the tally.
Okay, so I 18 points for me.
18 points for you.
Right.
You picked Carolina 75. I picked Carolina 80.
So that's 5 for me.
That's 5 for you, despite the fact that we both picked the losing team.
I can't believe I get points for picking a shitty losing team.
Yeah, well, because I picked them and I was more sure of it.
Okay, all right.
So you get points over me.
So we're up. What am I up now? What is it? 18 and 5? Is that what it would 23?
Yeah, so 23.
Yeah. Okay.
You picked Avalanche, the Avalanche, 100%.
Right.
I gave them 60%. So that's plus 40 for you.
Yeah, we're at plus 63 right now.
Oh, man.
Times 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I picked Tampa at 60%. You gave Tampa 56%. So I get myself a whopping 4.
Okay. So what are we at? 6?
We are now at 58. You are plus 58.
Plus 58. Yeah. Okay.
That's it. That's all the series.
Can we stop this senseless slaughter? 58. So that's 116 plus. I'm up 125. We really don't need to make it double the points in the subsequent rounds.
Here's the thing, Ken. This is the playoffs, okay?
Yeah.
If you can drive the stake in, you drive the stake in, okay? This is not about making people feel good. You do the flyby after every goal.
Okay.
I'm a big boy. I'm in the professional leagues. I can take it.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Took it pretty bad on that one.
You took it like on your hairy chin. Big time. Holy smokes. Yeah. I can't believe that I like obliterated you the way I did. Really.
I'm pretty surprised by that myself.
Yeah.
I definitely thought that I'd pick up a few points. Like, come on, Calgary. What's wrong with you guys? Jerks.
65%.
All right. So we have an awesome interview coming up.
Oh, yeah.
With Mark Spector and
Adrian Dater.
Previewing
the Western Conference.
So before we get to that, check out kencampbell.substack.com. Check us out on Apple Podcasts. I almost said Apple iTunes because they've rebranded. It's a piss off. Anyways, don't forget to leave us a comment. You can leave us comments on the YouTube videos. You can check out our clips on YouTube, which we do this into little sections, so you don't have to listen to us for an hour if you don't want to. But you can. Yeah. If you like. Yeah. And of course, if you leave comments, we will read them. We will comment on them as we did with August West just now. We will maybe sing you a song that nobody except for myself and Mr. West care about.
That's a good part of it. Yep.
Yeah.